Foreign actors are staking a claim in the conflict too, sending a steady flow of foreign weapons into the country. The United Arab Emirates is accused of sending weapons to the RSF, smuggled in via Chad. The United States is one of the leading arms traders to the UAE. Dotted around the burned-out battleground, Emirati armoured vehicles, Russian tanks, some from the Cold War. These battlefields are awash with foreign arms. Some newly imported, some legacy weapons from the wars that have plagued this continent for decades. Many of the guns now being used in Sudan come from Libya's civil war in 2014. We found evidence of Emirati and Russian weapon systems, Turkish and Serbian munitions, as well as US-manufactured small arms. This is an American-made M47 Dragon anti-tank missile launcher. The Sudanese armed forces say they found many of these left behind when they pushed the rapid support forces back. It's a 20-year-old model, so there's no telling where it's been between then and now. The serial number, the best way of tracking how these weapons entered the country, has been carefully removed. Critics say the UAE wants control over Sudan's Red Sea ports and rich mineral mines. The Emiratis deny supplying and funding the RSF, but have engaged in talks to determine Sudan's future. Sudan's US envoy Tom Perriello invited an Emirati delegation to failed talks in Geneva in August. The Sudanese army says it will not negotiate with a foreign power that's arming its enemies. Arms dealing is legal in the right circumstances, but countries who trade have a responsibility to track where and how their weapons are used. And these weapons are being used to massacre civilians. Brian Kastner is a weapons investigator for Amnesty International.
Modern ammunition does terrible things to the human body, breaks bones, it can take off legs. You have to look at priorities. You have to look at whether your priority is making the most money in however way possible, and what are your responsibility when it comes to human rights, what's your responsibilities when it comes to stopping crimes against civilians, when it comes to stopping civilian casualties.
It's not just foreign weapons, but foreign fighters playing a role in this war. Mercenaries from nearly a dozen countries have been spotted fighting alongside the RSF. Last month, Emirati passports were found in an area where the militia had been pushed back. We negotiated rare access to interview some of the RSF mercenaries the Sudanese army has captured at a nondescript intelligence base just meters from the echoing gunfire of the front line. Lul from South Sudan says he never even made the choice to fight. He came to work in Khartoum because even in wartime, he had more chance of earning money here than back home. In January, he was kidnapped from his cigarette stall and told he would be freed once he helped the RSF win back Omdurman. He arrived at the front to discover he and the other young fighters were little more than cannon fodder.
There weren't many soldiers, and no one could use the weapons. The few people who did fire bullets killed themselves or others in the group by accident. They were children, too young to fight. I was afraid, thinking, will I survive or not?
It was the only battle Lul would participate in, and it didn't last long.
On the way to the battlefront, clashes broke out and I was shot in the leg. The driver fled. I was shot again and fell to the ground with some others. I lay on the ground for 4 hours. The people with me died.
Lul managed to crawl to an abandoned house, where he was eventually found and arrested by the Sudanese army. He's been held here since March.
I still don't understand anything that's happening. Will they let me go or not? No one tells me anything. Will I go home to my family or to prison?
Zakaria is just 16. When an RSF recruiter came to his destitute village in Chad in early February, offering cash to fight, he jumped at the chance to help his family.
They said they would pay us when we reached Sudan, $600. But when we arrived, they didn't give us any money.
Like all the others here, he never saw a penny. By April, he'd been captured by the army. He's been